Okay, boys and girls, here we go. We're off. Another day, another kayak trip. You guys loved that last kayak video I posted, so I'm out here at a river not too far from home, trying to catch some smallmouth. See if we can make this thing happen. By the way, I had a conversation with Dirds last night. One of the big things we talked about was just how much fun like kayak fishing is. We're gonna start this thing out with a lipless crankbait, which is one of my favorite springtime baits. A lipless just seems to be able to call fish from a long ways. And you can fish it a bunch of different ways. One of the biggest things with kayak fishing I've learned is the opportunity to be versatile. And if you're not versatile, you're probably gonna be struggling to catch fish. So we're gonna start on this point with a lipless crankbait and see what we can make happen. Hopefully put a big one in the boat early. This is a river system. There is zero current, which I'm not sure how I feel about. All you can do is cast and hope. There's a fish. Oh man. Oh man. He was like right here. I might be sitting on him. Dang it. Oh, what was I doing? I never got a hook into that fish. I might have had it tail hooked. Dang it. Well, good morning, everyone, or whatever time it is, wherever you're watching this video. Up here in Michigan right now when I'm filming this, it is the morning. It is 8:20 in the a.m. And I'm out here on a small river close to my house. It's a place that I have a little bit of experience. I've caught some fish before, but my buddy Dirds, you guys have seen him in a bunch of my videos, has been out here exploring around a little bit as well. Now that we're stuck in a kayak, we have to stick to these little river systems. Without too much mobility, we have to stay in areas where we can get around easily. So I went for a little morning pedal, kind of pedaled down the river a little ways, and hopefully we'll get on some big smallmouth bass. Now this is a mixed lake, so there's smallmouth, there's largemouth, so there's a potential for both of those mixed in. But we're going to start out here in this river system, fishing some offshore stuff, looking for some of these pre-spawn smallmouth that are staged up, looking to push farther up the river to get into spawn. So if you guys watched the last river fishing video I did, the one where I caught my very first smallmouth in a kayak, I was catching pre-spawn smallies. Now, what was really interesting to me is towards the end of the day, I started to realize that those bigger fish were closer towards the main lake. They were closer towards that bigger body of water. They were just pushing in the mouth of that river to get up in there, start to spawn. But as you got farther up the river channel, what you noticed was that the fish were a lot smaller. The fish were continuously getting smaller in size. And a lot of times those river smallies, with the exception of certain places, are a little bit smaller than the main lake smallmouth, especially on the Great Lakes systems. That's kind of the plan, start more main lake and then work our way farther up the river as the day progresses, or if I'm not having success out here. Kind of just follow the spawn location back, because that's the way that I look at the pre-spawn. You start where they're pre-spawn, which is out in the deeper water, and then you move your way shallower. My camera had died and I got into a little flurry of fish. So I'm hoping I'll be able to show you guys some fish catches here in a minute, but what I had to do is downsize to a net rig. Now Dirds have been out and throwing a trap and catching them, dragging it, but there's no current, and I think that lack of current is causing these fish to get kind of finicky. So gonna stick with this net rig for a little bit, try to catch some, and then I'll talk about the bait, because the bait that I'm throwing is kind of interesting. There's fish. Oh, gracious. It's a decent smallmouth. Smashed that net rig. Whew. Look at that. Check that out. Absolutely smashed that net rig. That's a chunky chunk. Look at that fish. Belly on him. Thank you, fish. Let's cast back out there and catch another one. There's the fish. Look at that. It's another good one. Solid smallie. Oh my gosh. I was throwing that trap for like a half hour, 45 minutes, just struggling. And I picked up this net rig and it's been lights out. Another one. This Ned rig is the Z-Man TRD Hogs. It's something I picked up towards the end of last year, played around with a little bit, but it's a great little like crawfish style imitator, which is, I think, something that these fish key in on in the spring, and it also offers a little bit bigger profile in this dirty water. We'll talk about that here in just another second. I want to catch another fish. There's another fish. There's such a little pot of fish there. Oh my gosh, that is so much fun. You guys haven't seen it. This is probably my 5th or 6th fish. Another solid one. Oh, dude, that's so much fun. That's a better one. My first one off this spot was probably the best so far, about a 3.5. Come here, fish. Look at that. They are all so fat and healthy off here. Holy smokes. Catching them out of a yak is so much fun. So much more challenging. Like, look at that. I gotta get that fish back so I can actually pay attention, so I can stay on this spot. Golly. It's fun, but it's so hard. One of the biggest problems I've been having with kayak fishing is actually like boat positioning, staying on a spot once I catch some fish, because especially this time of year, these fish, like you guys are seeing, get on tiny areas, and not being able to control your kayak is like a big detriment. It also changes the way you present your bait, right? Like if you can't stay on your spot, you got to turn your body, or you got to do other things, and you can't focus on the actual fishing aspect, which is arguably obviously the most important aspect. If there's a certain way you got to present your bait, and you can't do that effectively, it's going to cost you some fish. So that's something I really want to work on, is managing the way that I manage my spots and my boat positioning, because it makes a big difference. And I noticed that out of a boat as well. Being able to hold your boat or position your boat in a certain way is super critical. God. That's another good one. Dude, these fish just kind of sit on it. Thank you, Mr. Smallmouth. You cutie pie. Go back down with your buddies, but don't tell them I'm coming. Goodness gracious. Sometimes the big ones you never feel. And I don't know if this one's big or not. Ooh! He looks big. He looks giant. Here's the thing in a kayak. I don't know how big this fish is yet. Fish look so big when you're at water level with them. He's decent. This fish looked like a 4-pounder when he was out there messing around, doing his thing. That's a Z-Man TRD Hogs. Looks like a little crawfish. That's Drew's craw color. My favorite color of all time in the Ned rig bait. Just straight up catches them. That fish just sat on it, just got heavy. Never actually felt him like bite, like the tick that you normally feel, especially on a Ned rig. Just kind of got heavy and loaded up. I think it was yesterday's video I said it. When you catch one, stop there, because there should be a bunch. This is the time of year when fish, smallmouth in particular, will group up on very small areas. They group up there because they're staging. They're getting ready to go do something, which is go up and spawn. And there's high percentage feeding areas, which is what I'm on now. It's a rock flat that pushes up into the river, and it just offers these fish pretty much everything they need. There's a little bit of grass on it, and all of that stuff down there give them a really prime opportunity to go out, feed up before they push up this river. It's like a stopping point to get really fat. It is a buffet before they have to go and do their thing. So where there's one, typically there are many this time of year. Water temp 44 degrees, 45 degrees. Fish grouped up and mad. My camera ended up dying on me, but I pushed out of that area that I was in. The bite really shut off. But what I find really interesting is this concept of wind as current. Okay, wind as current is something that is super interesting to me, because if you guys noticed in my intro, there was no wind, there was no current, there was nothing. The water was flat, calm, and I'm like, man, it's a beautiful day to be out here kayak fishing. But my very first bite came as soon as that wind started to pick up. And as I started to really process what was going on, the wind picked up, and I think it acted as current to help those fish position on that certain side of that rock flat in that grass. And that, I think, was a big portion of the reason why those fish bit. Now I do think too, I fired that school up, and once they were fired up, they just kept biting and biting and biting. But wind as current is something that's super intriguing to me. Now let's take a look at the bait that I've been throwing. This is a Z-Man TRD Hogs. It has these 2 tentacles off the end, has those couple little things on the side of it, and then I have it on a 1/4 ounce Berkeley half head Ned head. I really like that Ned head. The hook's good. The head shape is really nice. It doesn't get hung up too much. But this bait is super interesting, especially in off-colored water, because it has those little craw-like tails on the back. I think when it stands up, it looks like a crawfish, a small juvenile craw, early season, and it just draws a lot of big bites. As opposed to that TRD Ticklers, which I like, this has a little bit more movement and action down there. It's a little bit bigger profile, and I think sometimes when they're not willing to commit to something or they can't find that TRD Ticklers, this just gives them something a little bit more to key in on and feed on. So this is a really good craw imitator, which is, I know what these fish are feeding on down in these rocks. So that's why I went with this bait here. And they've been absolutely smashing that thing, as you guys have seen. So I got out of that wind a little bit. I'm pushed way up in this river now. And I actually just caught a fish that was 3 1/4 pounds. So pretty decent fish up in this river, which, to be honest, kind of shocked me. Because I figured when I caught them on that main river that a lot of these fish up here would be those real small ones, like just little males pushing up this river to feed and find stuff to spawn on. But that 3 1/4 kind of affirms that there are some big fish that are starting to push up in here. A 3-pound smallmouth is an absolute giant on this little river system, so it feels good to catch, you know, a couple pretty decent ones already this morning. It's only what, 10 o'clock, 10:20, so I've been out here for 2.5 hours. That's a fish. There. Oh, golly, this wind is making it so hard to do anything. This wind is the MVP and the loser of today. It's helping me, but it's also making it miserable. Oh, I can't tell if those are fish or if those are rocks or what those are. Fish. There we go. Oh, look at that. Up here in skinny water. Let me see if I can show you guys. Look at this. You can see the bottom. Oh, wow. That is a giant. That is a beautiful fish. I hope you guys can see in that water. Come on, fish. Oh, that is a big fish. That is a giant smallie. Oh, look at that beautiful fish. What a pretty smallmouth. Look at that chunker. Little TRD hogs. Beautiful fish. Oh, hell yeah. That's sweet. Beautiful. That fish felt so good. I mean, that was pretty much exactly where I lost that other one. But this wind just makes us so tough. Like, I was literally about to say, okay, I'm about to succumb to this wind. That fish makes fighting this wind so worth it. It is so much fun catching them in this current with this, you know, shallow, clear water. But man, that wind just is brutal. Holy smokes, baby. There's one. Right in that same spot. Another solid one. Look at that long, lean river smallmouth. What a beautiful fish. Whew, super, super nice. Beautiful fish. It makes it so hard because I'm literally fishing sideways out of this kayak to try and fish for these stupid smallmouth. But man, when they bite, it is so much fun. My approach to fishing this Ned rig is so easy. I literally cast it out, let it go to bottom, and just slowly pull it. I'm not feeling a lot of these bites, so it's just when it gets heavy, like when it just sticks on what I would feel like normally is a rock a little bit too long, I'll just set the hook. I set the hook about 84 times a day, catch about 10 fish. So if that tells you anything, I set the hook a lot on a lot of things that aren't fish. But when it is a fish, at least I get them. There's one. Holy smokes, boys! She's towing the kayak. These smallmouth are so strong. Holy smokes, boys and girls. They live in this current and they just pull. Oh my gosh. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Don't do it. Come to the boat. Come to the boat. Come here. Come here. Got you. Oh, look at that fish. Heck yes. Look at that. Another beautiful smallie. Wow. Such a pretty fish. Thank you, fish. Bye. Dude, it's amazing how clear this water is. I don't know if you guys can tell from the video, but I can see bottom in 7 foot of water. And these fish, I don't know if they're scared by the kayak, but I tried to go over on that side first and I didn't catch any. But when I came to this side of the river, cast across it, I'm catching them. So they might be boat shy. I don't know what's going on, but there's a little pot of fish right there. I thought that was hung. That was a fish. I don't know if you guys saw me try to shake my rod tip there. That was a fish. I thought I was hung though. Oh wow, that's a big, beautiful brown one. Look at how beautiful that fish is. Dark golden brown. Just a beautiful 3.5, 4 pound smallmouth. Just like yesterday, that little Ned rig is the key, but the deal is just not moving the bait. Taking it, pulling it around those rocks, and just really methodically working it through there as slow as you possibly can, and those fish will come over and find it and eat it. I mean, this water is very much different than yesterday. It's super clear, but these fish are coming from long ways away to come over and get this bait. Not like that one. It was sitting on bottom and I thought I was hung and I was shaking my rod, and I don't know if you guys noticed that, but then it started swimming, so I set the hook and that fish had it good anyways. But they're just coming over and picking it up and kind of moving along. So it is so much fun. A rod I'm throwing it on is a Temple Fork Outfitters. It's a prototype rod we're working on. It's the 7-1 medium/medium light rod, and then a 3,000 size T-Loose Custom Pro 15 pound test braid to 8 pound fluorocarbon line. But that's the entire setup. That is the deal. That's what's been getting done these past 2 days for me out here. 2 different river systems. The same bait is getting absolutely smashed. Yeah, that's gonna write her. It's gonna write the end of that story. That wind is howling, and this is just a tiny piece of a creek. So I'm gonna get out of here before this thing picks up anymore. It could get kind of dangerous. I'll catch you guys here in just a second.